Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our virtual petition training here from the York Dems. For those that are on tonight that do not know me, I am Chad Baker. I'm the chair of the Democratic Party in York County, and I'm going to go through a presentation tonight just to give you some of the basics on what to be um, expecting if you are a candidate running for petitioning that needs the petition to get on the ballot, or a volunteer that's going to be helping candidates. We appreciate you being here. One thing I will mention is as we go through tonight, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. If you don't want to do that, we will have times throughout the session where I will pause for some questions, and you can certainly unmute yourself and ask your questions at that point in time. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And first thing we're going to look at is just what our objectives are for tonight. First is just to go over the basic content of a petition. Some of you that are on here, I know just even seeing some of the names here, you've petitioned many times before. So some of this will be familiar to you. Some of it's good to be refreshed on. And for those that are new to petitioning, as I tell folks all the time, it's not overly complicated, but there is a lot of things. There are a lot of things that you need to be watching for while you are petitioning to make sure that you're getting clean signatures, accurate signatures, so that your candidates can get on the ballot. And that's really where we come with number two. We're going to review the do's and don'ts, things that you should be looking for, things that you should be doing when you're petitioning, things that shouldn't count when you're petitioning. A lot of different kind of aspects of what to kind of expect. And then last, but certainly not least, is we want to get our Democrats on the ballot. So we'll talk a little bit about what we can do to help folks that are running as candidates, but also, again, volunteers who are looking to, uh, you know, to petition, help candidates petition to get on the ballot. So let's start off with really the basics, and that is the fact that petitioning begins on February 18th. So a week from tomorrow, petitioning will begin for 2025. And for those that that don't know, you need to petition to get on the ballot. That's really all there is to it. It's important for us to get the correct number of signatures, make sure that our candidates are getting out and talking to voters in advance while they're petitioning, just to get them familiar with the kind of the lay of the land, basically. March 11th is the last day to circulate. You can circulate on March 11th, but everything has to be filed by the close of business on March 11th. That's important to keep in mind. So if for some reason you're not where you need to be in your number of signatures that you need to get, you definitely need to pick it up basically that weekend before, so that you're able to complete what you need. And then there is a possibility that petitions can be challenged, or individuals may challenge opposition to you, whatever it may be. The last day to challenge is a week after the deadline for circulation. So that's March 18th in this case. So you have about a 3-week window in its totality to complete the signature, the petitioning process. So this year, there are actually going to be two different petitions that are available. You're going to have one that is a statewide, that is solely for judges. And by judges, I mean those statewide judges that are going to be running, and Court of Common Pleas. Actually, Court of Common Pleas is going to be a county one. So it would just be those statewide judges that will be circulating those statewide petitions. So today, we're going to focus primarily on these local petitions. These are the petitions that you're going to be able to get from the Board of Elections. I will give you a link when we're finished here on where to find those, so that you can easily download these and be able to circulate these petitions. The first thing that we tell everyone is that because these are available to download off of the Board of Elections website, is make sure you are printing them correctly. The Board of Elections has the County of York's petitions in an 8.5 by 14 format, so a legal size page format. That is how they should be printed. They should not be printed on standard 8.5 by 11 paper. If you're doing anything that requires a county petition, which is pretty much everything this year, you need to print 8.5 by 14. And you also want to print front to back. You want to make sure that what you see here on the screen, that front portion that says the nominating petition, that's on one side, and the other section is on the back. You cannot submit petitions that are printed individually. So if you had these two pages printed separately that you see here on the screen, and you stapled them together, you paperclip them together, they will not be accepted by the Board of Elections. So it is absolutely critical that you make sure that you have these printed front to back. So let's start to take a look at the petitions themselves. This year, the countywide petitions start out with just the basic candidate information. Things like the district of the seat is number one. So if you're running for a township position, it's the township. If you're running for school board, it's that school board. If you're running for a county row office, it's the county, it's the York County that you would put there in the district. In number two, you put Democrat or Republican. And we'll talk a little bit about cross-filing and how that works here in a minute as well. But either Democratic or Republican. Keep in mind, in Pennsylvania, we have a closed primary system, which means you only can run as a Democrat or Republican in the primary. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Number three is the candidate name. So as you want it to appear on the ballot, you really should have it appear as it does on your voter registration card. But if you go by a nickname and you want that to appear on the ballot, you can put it on that way. But whatever you put on this sheet is how it's going to appear on the ballot. So just keep that in mind as well. Number four is the candidate's job. You know, whatever your position is, if you're a director, if you're, you know, whatever, that's where that goes in number four. If you're retired is acceptable there as well. Number five is the candidate address. So just the basic, the home address for the candidate, which will include the street, the number of the street if possible, and the zip code. Number six is the title of the office. So again, if you're running for school director, if you're running for township supervisor, if you're running for coroner for the county, that's what you would put in the title. And then term of office is the number of years that position will you'll be in that position. And I'm going to show you a slide here in a minute that shows you the time, the terms of office, I should say, for each of those positions. You get to the bottom part of the petition, and we're going to go through this a little bit more just so you can see that a little bit more clearly. But in this section, you'll have your signatures, the printed names of the people that are signing the petition, their residency information, and then the date that they are signing the petition. And as I said, we'll go into more detail about some of those things here in a minute. And then on the very back is what we call the statement of the circulator. Whoever is circulating these petitions, whether it's the candidate who is out getting these signatures, a volunteer, whomever it is that has that petition in their hands circulating it, is who fills this information out. And that includes, again, county of the petition signer, the printed name of the circulator, signature of the circulator, their address, and then their city, borough, or township, and their zip code there. So far, pretty straightforward, but you'll see here in a minute when we get into the second part of this, where some of the trickiness lies and where you can get caught up in this process. So as I mentioned, terms of office are all listed here. So if you're running pretty much from almost any position in the county. It's going to be 4 years, with the exception of the township and borough auditors. Township supervisors are 6 years. Those are a little bit different, but most are going to be a 4 year term. The one thing I do tell folks to watch for is that a lot of times you will have folks that are running for unexpired positions, meaning that, say, for a school board, someone stepped down and wasn't able to complete their term. Um, Someone's maybe filled in that position, but now we've hit the election cycle where school boards are on the ballot. That position typically wouldn't be on the ballot this year, but in order to have a fair process, it is now back on the ballot. So it might only be a 2 year term if you're filling out that unexpired term. So if you have any questions about that, certainly you can reach out to our office. You can reach out to the Board of Elections. There's a lot of different places you can connect to see that the length is correct if you're running for one of those unexpired terms. Cross-filing. This is important. There are 2 races on the ballot this year where candidates can cross-file. The first is going to be school board. So anyone that's running for school board can circulate a petition as a Democrat to run and as a Republican to run. The things that you need to remember is that if you are a school board candidate who's circulating a Republican petition, it needs to be a Republican who is circulating that petition for you. And of course, if you're a Democrat, the Democrat has to be circulating that petition for you as well. And it's only Republicans that can sign the Republican petition, and it's only Democrats that can sign the Democratic petition. Same thing is true with the Court of Common Pleas. We have 2 positions on the ballot this year for Court of Common Pleas. Both of those positions can cross file. Same thing as I just mentioned with the school board races. You can run either on both tickets as a Republican and a Democrat. And in both cases, you still need to have someone from that party circulating a petition, and only people from that party registered voters from that party can sign those petitions as well. Every other position on the ballot, whether it's, again, township, borough, state judges, district magisterial justices, all of those positions, they are not cross-fileable positions. It's only these 2, school board positions and the Court of Common Pleas. Number of signatures. This is important as well. For folks.
Can I interject?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Go ahead.
I have to correct you on magisterial district judge. That is another position that you can cross-file on.
Okay. All right. I apologize then. I wasn't aware of that. So good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
So number of signatures needed. If it's a countywide position, so if it's someone running for a county office, you need to have at least a minimum of 250. For those district magisterial justices that we were just talking about, those are 100. Citywide offices are also 100. So if it's someone running for mayor, running for city council, it's 100 signatures. Township offices, borough offices, school boards are 10. And now when you get to the school boards, as I mentioned before, if you're going to cross-file, you need at least 10 Republican, 10 Democratic signatures for school director. The thing that we tell everyone is try to hit twice as many as you really need, if not 3 times as many. And we tell folks that for a number of reasons. First of all, and most importantly, if you get 2 to 3 times more signatures than what you need, then you are avoiding, in most cases, you're avoiding a challenge. Most people will look at your petitions and they will tell you, look, you got 250 signatures for, the mayor of York City. I'm not going to challenge that because I think you have enough to sustain any challenge that might come your way, unless it's blatantly obvious that there's some issues. Same thing with those smaller numbered races, those 10 signatures. Strive to get 30, 40, as many as you can, to avoid those challenges. The other real reason to do more is because it gives you a chance to interact with potential voters. Obviously, when someone signs a petition, they are signing to get a candidate on the ballot, but they are not signing, necessarily to say they're going to vote for that person. But if you're out there talking to them as a candidate or as a volunteer for a campaign, and you start to talk to them about issues and different things that might be of interest to them, then all of a sudden you might persuade them to consider voting for you. You might persuade them to volunteer for a campaign. So, getting more means, increasing your outreach initially. While it is really for more selfish reasons to help protect you, at the same time, it's best to try to get as many signatures as possible. So I do think we are at a question point here. Any questions thus far? Those are kind of like the basics of the petitioning process so far. I am going to talk a little bit about the do's, the don'ts, things to watch out for, those types of things. But any questions about just the overall petition or what's needed in order to get signatures? Okay. As I said, what I'll do is at the end, we will make sure that you have a link that has a downloadable version of the petition. And it also will include a link that gives instructions that the county provides as well, including a lot of the things that we're talking about. So you'll be able to reference back to that as well at that point in time. But again, if you have questions, like I said, please feel free to interject or to put them into the chat as well. All right, so now is where we get down into the nitty gritty of this. Again, petitioning can be very simple to do. It's very easy to get, especially when you only need to get a minimum of 10 signatures to get on the ballot. Doesn't seem like it would take a whole lot of effort. But one little mistake on those petitions could actually wipe out that entire petition. And it could also mean that it wipes out a person running for office. So it is something that you want to be very careful of when you are petitioning. So let's go back to that section where we talk about the main section where the signatures are going to take place. There are 6 columns there. We broke them out 1 through 6 here so you can see them. The first one is the signature of the elector. Very simple. Sign your name. You make sure they sign their names. Make sure that the person who is signing your petition, they put their signature there. In number 2, make sure they print their name legibly. Make sure that they can see that information is printed out clearly, and so that someone can check that if they need to as well. If this is the first spot for an error. If a person prints their name in the signature box and signs their name in the print box, that will not be accepted. So what you will do is you will draw a black line the whole way through that column, or through that row, through that row. And then you will have them start on the next one and make sure that they have their signature and their printed name. It may not be a case that it would be challenged if it was that way. But again, we want to try to avoid any issues and make sure that there's no potential to have anything challenged. So be aware of that. Number 3 is the house number. So as we say here, if someone lives at 125 Main Street, then it's just 125 that goes into that particular house number. Next is your street or road. Again, if it's 123 Main Street, it's Main Street. If it's Elm Avenue, pretty straightforward. You can use abbreviations there. You can use ST for street, RD for road, AVE for avenue. That's fine. Try to have them write it out if there's enough space, but if there's not, they can abbreviate the road or the street or what have you. Number five, this is the place that will hang, everyone every time if it's not done correctly, and that is municipality. So I always use the example. I live in Manchester Township. My address, however, is York, Pennsylvania, and then my zip code. Um, when I sign a petition to get a person on the ballot like this, I will put in that municipality Manchester Township. Um, it is important that you get this correct. And you can't just write Manchester because here in York County, we have a Manchester Borough and a Manchester Township. So you have to write Manchester Borough, Manchester Township. You can't just write York because there is a York City, there is a York Township. So you want to make sure you put York City, York Township. Um, Again, if you know that you are circulating petitions, maybe you're in your neighborhood and you know that you are in a certain borough, or you know you're in a certain township, and you see someone writes what would be their mailing address, you can correct them. You will have to cross out that entire line, have them start over, but just again, make sure that they're putting in that township or borough or city, whatever the municipality may be. You can abbreviate township, TWP. Again, if it's possible to have them write it out, great. But clearly, you can see they don't give you a lot of space here. And if you live in, say, Springettsbury Township, which is a long thread if it's written out, you're going to be pretty tight on space. So if you put TWP, that's fine. But please make sure that if it is a township, they do put that afterwards, because as I said, there's a lot of townships and boroughs, townships and cities that are exactly the same. So we want to make sure that we're differentiating in that way. The last column is going to be for the date of the signing. There should not be any signatures on this document that have a date prior to February 18th. Candidates cannot circulate petitions before the 18th. You may have the petition in your hand. You may be ready to get signatures before the 18th, but you cannot legally get them. It is absolutely something that you cannot do, and it can potentially get your entire petition thrown out. So you want to make sure that you're very, very careful to start on the 18th. And you also want to make sure that those dates go in chronological order. It's very easy sometimes for someone, if they're signing, say, line number 7 there, they're going through and they're signing their name and everything. And, you get to the date and it's February 18th and they look up and they see the 18th. Sometimes, all of our brains have that glitch every once in a while. And maybe that person writes February 19th. Well, you need to make sure that if it says February 19th, all the rest of them say February 19th afterwards as well. Otherwise, it would be out of order. And if it's out of order, it could potentially, again, jeopardize the entire petition. So it is important to make sure that you keep those dates in chronological order. Rules, just some basic rules. Each signer may sign petitions for as many candidates as there are on the ballot. So let me give you an example. School board. Most school board races this year have 4 seats that are on the school board, that are going to be up on the school board. If there are 6 candidates running as a Democrat, if there are 6 Democratic petitions that are being circulated, you can only sign for 4 of them. So keep that in mind. If you sign more than that, it not only could jeopardize those that were signed after, but it could actually jeopardize all of the ones before that as well. So if you sign 4 and then you sign 2 more, it actually could jeopardize all 6 of those signatures, and they could all be scratched from petitions, because sometimes they'll say, well, there's no proof that one was received over another. Even though the dates might be different, it can be called into question. So just make sure that you are only getting enough signatures, sorry, enough, you are only signing enough petitions for as many spots as there are on the ballot. Same thing comes up with borough councils, township supervisors. A lot of times there are multiple spots that are on the ballot, so you can sign for just as many as of the spots as there are on that ballot. Um, each signer must personally insert the information on their ballot. Again, that means that when you're standing there, they have to write that information, and you can't have them sign it and then you fill in the rest of it for them. They have to sign it and they have to fill in all of that information. So it has to be one person filling in all of the information. You cannot use ditto marks. And it doesn't matter. Inevitably, every year we have a petition that gets submitted with ditto marks on it. And it's a lot of times because you're knocking on a door of a household, there's four people living there that can sign. Great. That's almost half the signatures that you're required to get right in one house, right? Of course, you'd be excited to get four. And the first person signs and they put their name and then they put their address. And then the next person, they sign their name, they print their name, and then they ditto mark under the address. And the next person does the same thing. That is not permissible. You actually have to write out that information every single time. Every person signing has to fill in that information. If there are ditto marks, that signature will be striked from the petition, and it will not count. And again, if you encounter that, what you need to do is you need to draw a line through that entire signature line and start on the next one and have them fill out that information there. And as we said already, each signer must sign their name and put their information themselves, and they must put what's on their permanent voter registration card. If they're not 100% sure, that's fine. But it should be based on what is on their registration card is how they are signing that petition. The other thing, and this isn't as common as it used to be, but it used to be very common for especially older generations for women that were signing the petitions would sign it with their married name with instead of as it says here, instead of writing Jane Doe, they would put Mrs. John Doe. That doesn't count either. You need to put your official name. Your name as it appears on your card is the best rule of thumb that we tell folks all the time, is to follow through with that. A couple common mistakes that we run into. Again, make certain that each signer of the petition is registered and enrolled in the party that they are signing for and lives in the designated precinct. If you are running for city council and you circulate a petition that says it's for a Democrat running for city council, and a Republican from Stewartstown signs the petition, that signature doesn't count. They are not a resident of that district, and they are not a registered person within that county. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of folks that try to get away with that, try to sign, get signatures for people outside of their voting district. So, again, please be careful. Where this becomes a common issue is, say, for example, you are running for something in the city and you go to Central Market on Saturday morning and you're standing outside trying to get signatures. That's a great place to get signatures. But if you are running for a very concentrated area, say a school board or a township or a borough, it's very difficult to get the votes that the signatures that you need from Market. Lots of people will sign it, but not every person will be eligible to sign it. So in those cases, we say kind of steer clear of those bigger, more public events because it's harder to control who's signing the petition. The individual who executes the statement of the circulator must be present when the elector signs his or her name to the petition. So that block on the back where you sign it, if you are the ones that is circulating the petition, You have to have that petition in your possession at all times. You can't just lay it down on a table and walk away and just leave it there. We had folks a few years ago, not from the Democratic Party, but we had some candidates that took their petitions to a senior center and just left them there for a couple of days, and said, yeah, sure, anyone that comes in, have them sign it. And then that particular candidate or those particular candidates signed the petition as if they had circulated it and submitted it, hoping that those signatures would count. If there is proof that that was out of their possession at any time and they did not observe what was going on, that entire petition can be thrown out. So just make sure, if you have that petition, that it's in your possession. If you go to an event, a petition signing event, it's okay to leave it on the table as long as you're in the general proximity and are able to keep an eye on it as the petitioning event is going on. But definitely keep that in mind. It's very important that only the person circulating, has possession of it at all time. Don't try to fill out that statement of the circulator until after the petition is fully signed and completed. And the reason I say that is because there is, if we go back and look, um, when you fill this in and you put in number 3, you put your signature and you put the date. So say your date is, February 15th. Well, if you get to that part of your petition and you sign it February 15th, and then somebody else signs the petition the next day on the 16th, that signature does not count. So you need to make sure that when you sign that back portion, that's it. Nothing else happens to that petition until it's ready to be filed. You can go back and you can scratch off signatures if you think there's an error or an issue with them, but you cannot have any more people sign it. So it's really important to make sure that you don't sign that until you're finished. Candidates are reminded that their petitions can only be circulated, obviously, by registered voters of the state and enrolled members of the political party. So again, you have to be a Democrat to circulate Democratic petitions. You have to be a Republican to circulate Republican petitions. It is nice. It used to be that you had to live in that district to circulate. That's no longer the case. You can have other Democrats circulate for you, and that's not a problem. And the big difference, though, with what I just said is that the signers, though, do have to be in that district. As we mentioned earlier, you cannot have somebody outside of the district sign that petition for you. And then we already mentioned this, dates on the back, the dates on the petition on the edge there. They all have to be in chronological order. If anything is messed up, do not try to go back and fix it yourself. If you're looking at that and you see, okay, somebody messed up the date, they put, February 15th, February 15th, February 16th, and then it went back to February 15th again. I hate to say it, but you're just going to have to cross out that February 16th one. Otherwise, if you don't, everything under that 16th will then be negated by the Board of Elections when they review it. So, you don't want to lose potentially, multiple signatures for that one. So you do have to cross that out. A couple other mistakes: incomplete addresses. They just write the street name. They just write, they don't put the house number in. That's something that you need to be aware of. Make sure that they're filling out that information completely. Use of the maiden name may not have been changed on the voter registration. So maybe somebody just got married and their voter registration says that they're Jane Smith, but they got married and now they are Jane Doe. Well, because of how it is on their voter registration, they have to sign with their maiden name, however it shows up on their registration card. If they have already filed to change their registration, they did it electronically or they filled out a form and sent it back, they can then put their signature as their married name. But if they don't, if they haven't done that change yet. Not everybody thinks about that right away to change their voter registration. Um, they need to use the name as it appears on their registration card. Suspicious signatures. Watch for things like same handwriting, illegible handwriting, or duplicates. Again, if you're only getting, 10, 20, 30 signatures, you may not run into some of these issues. But if there's candidates that are running that need 100, 250, whatever it is, um, be wary of this. Just make sure that the same person didn't sign your petition. It could be completely innocent. They might sign at one event and then they go to another event and they think, "Oh, I didn't sign this one." They sign it again. That's fine. Just strike one of them out. Preferably the one with the later date is the one that you should strike out. But regardless, as long as you draw a line through it and it doesn't count, that's fine. Um, Make sure that you're looking at your handwriting as well. If you have four people in a house and all the signatures look the same, all the handwriting looks the same, that's going to throw up a red flag. That's going to possibly get your petitions challenged. That's possibly going to get the Board of Elections to throw them out because they're going to say, hey, it was the same person that signed all four of these and not just the first one. So be aware of that as well. And as we say, spouses, roommates, partners, etc., they cannot sign for others in their household. If so, you go to the door and someone says, well, my partner's not available right now, they're at work, can I sign for them? Nope. You can go back and get that partner signature when they are home, but at that particular time, you won't be able to get the signature. You can't have the person in that household do it for them. Last column is for the date. I can't believe I didn't even mention this when we were looking at this. Um, so many people just get into the habit of writing their house number, their street address, their municipality. And again, instinctively, you put your zip code because that's how you write your address, not on a petition. You put the date in that column. You don't need the zip code if you have, excuse me, the municipality there. Um, it is not uncommon. People just will start, filling it out quickly and they get there. And what really, really stinks is if they put their zip code in there and you catch it when they do it, they have to cross that out and do a whole new line with the correct information. So that one last thing in that column, they think they're almost done. They think they've done a good thing for you as a candidate or as a campaign volunteer, and all of a sudden they realize, oh, I got to do it all over again. So just keep that in mind as folks are signing. On the bottom of the petitions, you're going to see a blank that a blank space that says blank of blank pages, something like that. Don't fill in those page numbers until all of the petitions for that candidate are circulated. So again, say someone's running for York County District Attorney. They need 250 signatures. Their goal is 750 signatures. That's going to take up a lot of petitioning space. And once all of those are collected, you might have 40 sheets. It is up to the campaign to go through and they can number those as they go. They don't have to be in any particular order. It's not like you have to try to make each of the pages line up chronologically. That's impossible. But just leave that blank. As a volunteer, you don't need to fill that out. As someone who's circulating for a candidate, you don't need to fill that out. Just leave it blank until the individual is ready to file those petitions. And then, as it says here, and I've said this a couple times, don't ever try to correct an error. If the Board of Elections goes through and they see that, I'll tell you, great example. So, say you're circulating your petitions, you get to March 1st, and someone writes 2/1/25. They're not thinking, again, our brains get so conditioned to writing dates and writing the current month or the previous month that we've all done that. You're writing something and you put the wrong month down. And if they put 2/1/25, you might look at that and you say, oh, you know what? I could probably fix that, but that looks like a three and there won't be, that won't matter. If there's any evidence that that was tampered with, that entire petition could get thrown out because you tried to change a two to a three, or you tried to change, again, another example, if somebody signed Manchester but didn't put township and you tried to just write the TWP, if it doesn't match, it can get thrown out. So don't ever try to correct. Always draw a thick black line through that entire line that's in question, and then go on to the next one and have them redo it. If it happens that you don't notice until after you've already left, and you're you know, at the end of the night, you're done petitioning for that day. You go back, you're looking at your petitions, and you realize, oh, this person put, the wrong township, or they signed where they should have, printed their name. Um, you can cross that out if you want to go back later and try to get that, corrected by them. You can, but you know, you can go ahead and strike that, and hopefully you have plenty more signatures to cover that one that ends up being a mistake. All right. That's a lot of information to digest. And that's really kind of the do's and don'ts portion of this. So I do want to give you an opportunity now. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we just went over? Any questions about any of the issues that could arise? Any knowledge that you have of previous um, petitioning that, maybe alters what I just said there? Anything like that? All right. Either I'm doing a really good job or I've put you all to sleep tonight. Either way, hopefully you're getting what you need out of this. um, so next thing, how do you get signatures? We know that again, it's when you're not going after a lot of signatures, um, it's not as hard to go out and get those signatures. You can probably walk your neighborhood and get 10 signatures right off the bat. Um, But if you want to be more coordinated with your efforts, there are door to door lists that you can use that actually will tell you who is a registered Democrat. We can even target it to those that typically vote in a primary election. And in some cases, we can give you information on actually who has signed petitions in that area before and might be willing to sign a petition for you. So that's something that we can provide from the party level. I mentioned earlier petition signing parties. A lot of times, folks will invite people into their home, talk to them a little bit, give them some information about their candidacy, and then ask them to sign petitions. Or you can do it, at a restaurant, or you can do it in, somewhere where you know that people that are coming in are going to be from that particular district. You can do that. You can always do events that you advertise out as well. As we tell folks all the time, if you have anything, if you're from York County and you have anything that you want to have shared out, let us know. We're happy to share that information and let folks know, hey, there's going to be a petition signing event here. Go sign petitions for these candidates if you live in that district, or go, do this, do that. So that's another way. Contacting registered voters. So family, friends, neighbors, people that you know are registered Democrats that you've had conversations with before. You may not know how they voted, or maybe you don't want to know how they voted, but they are registered Democrats. You can talk to those folks and get those signatures as well. And then last, as I said, public venues. For smaller numbered ballot or smaller numbered petition signatures, I'd say don't even consider public venues because you never know who's signing. If you are a countywide candidate, public venues are perfect, especially if you know that the majority of the people that are going into those venues are from your county. That's great. If you're from a larger district, that maybe um, there's a public service, or there's a public venue that allows folks to do that type of thing with petitioning, and that most of the people from that district are from that area, can sign the petition. then absolutely use public venues. But again, for those smaller numbers, you can easily get the numbers that you need, from some of these other methods as well. How do you get started? What can the York Dems provide to folks who are petitioning? Well, one, we can provide those walk lists, and as I said, we can get very, very targeted on our walk list. We can say, we only are giving you a list of Democrats that have voted 3 out of the last 4 cycles, meaning that if you're running for school board, then they voted in 23, 21, 19 and 17. I think I got those right. They voted 3 out of those 4 times. And why we do that, we call them our super voters, is because, again, those are the people that more than likely, if they sign your petition, are also then going to vote for you in the primary election to get you through to get on the general ballot. So, we can do that. We can target to specific neighborhoods. If you say, look, I'm running for township supervisor, but I only really am able to walk my own, housing development, we can give you a list of the Democrats in that housing development so that you can talk to those folks. We can get as very narrow focused or as broad as possible with these lists. So, please let us know, reach out to us, and I'll be happy to get that information to you. Print copies of the blank petitions and provide copies to volunteers. We have a copier at our office in York. We also have an office in Hanover that can print out the petitions. So if you don't have a printer or maybe you don't even have the paper, the 8.5 by 14 size paper, if you don't have that at your house and it's easier for you to get a blank petition from us, let us know. We're happy to print out that blank petition for you and get that to you so that you can use that, or multiple copies of it if you need that as well. We will have petitions available at our clubs and other petitioning signing events that we have. We have a number of different clubs throughout York County that are going to be doing petition signing events, and they will have regionally the petitions for that particular area. So again, for school board, township, they will have for those particular regions where their club is located, and they'll have statewide and potentially countywide as well. And the same goes for if there's any other petition filing events. We often will encourage folks, again, if somebody's running for York City School Board, we're going to encourage them to carry petitions or have petitions at their events for York City Council and the mayor. Same thing in other areas as well. We recognize that your main focus is to get those signatures for yourself, but if we can share in that process in any possible way and help lessen that load, the better it is for all of us involved. And the last thing is, we're more than happy to sit down with you before you file and go over those signatures just to make sure that that they're correct. That there are no issues. A lot of times you can sit and look at these things for hours on end, never see a mistake, and you can hand it to someone that hasn't looked at it yet, and immediately they pick up on something. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to have a second set of eyes, and we certainly can help provide that service as well. All right. Well, that gets us to the end, but I obviously again do want to offer up any opportunity if anyone has any questions, any additional comments at this time. You can unmute yourself, or as I said, you can throw it in the chat.
Chad, Joel here. Do you know whether the Office of Elections has their own paper petitions that they will distribute upon request?
They should. Yeah, they absolutely should have them. If you contact them or go into their office, they should absolutely have blank ones that are available for you. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah. So, Jordy, your question, I think, is, do all the Board of Elections have them? I think is the question. And it should be, yes. All Board of Elections should have copies of, or blank copies of the petition that you can use. Um, yeah, so you should be able to call up to your Board of Elections and say, hey, I'm going to stop in this afternoon. Can I pick up a couple blank copies? They should have them available for you. In most cases, if they're digital, like they are in York County as well, they may actually just go on the website and print them out from there for you. But yes, they absolutely should give them to you. If they don't, that's a big issue. That would be something to take to a higher level and let folks know that they're not providing those to you. So, but yeah, every county should do that. And I should say statewide petitions. So I did mention earlier there are statewide petitions that are out there. If anyone is circulating a petition for themselves and they say, hey, while I'm out there, I want to try to get some signatures for our statewide judges, the only thing that we tell folks is be careful because those are actually generated through the Department of State in Harrisburg. They're done electronically. They fill out all their information online, actually, electronically, and it will specify what county it is for. So, for our statewide judges, they have 67 counties that they're collecting petitions from. And, obviously the ones that we have say York, and there may be some in Cumberland County or Adams or Dauphin or Lancaster counties. If those petitions from those other counties get into York County and they start being signed by York County residents, those are invalid signatures. So just be careful if you do decide to circulate for those statewide. That's the only thing I would say is make sure that it is for the county that you are circulating in. And again, those petitions we will have available at our office. We've already received those petitions from our statewide judges, so we would be happy to share those with anyone that needs those as well. I did say that I would give you the link, and give me 1 second before I need to pull that up. I completely forgot to do that. So, oh, great question. Thank you. The completed petitions should be handed in to, if you are anything other than a statewide candidate, all petitions should go to your county's Board of Elections. So it should go to, obviously in the case, in York County, it will go to the York County Board of Elections before or on that deadline date. So, that should be the case in every single county, regardless of whether you're from York or not. There will also be a statement, a candidate statement. If you are a candidate that's running, you will have a candidate statement that you will need to fill out and have that when you submit those petitions as well. That information will probably vary from county to county. So I would say, in those cases, try to make sure that you're using whatever your county prefers in those particular cases. And then there's also normally with those candidate affidavits that need to be filled out, you can get them notarized and submit those notarized, or if you can't get to a notary, there should be an affidavit that you can sign that doesn't require you to use a notary. And in that case, that's what we advise a lot of our candidates to do is don't worry about the actual notary. Just make sure that your candidate affidavit is accompanied by that affidavit exemption form that is required by the county. Other questions? Okay. So I am putting into the chat information for those that are in York County, where you can find the both the petition and then the petition instructions. And those are just the instructions that the county provides, very similar to what we went over. As a matter of fact, a lot of this presentation is cross-checked with what the county puts out. So make sure that you're checking that as well. Um, and I would say, um, if you're not from York County, obviously check with your Board of Elections. If you need printed copies, obviously, as we said, they should have printed copies for you. But if they don't, they hopefully will have a digital copy that you can print out the digital copy as well. All right. If there are no other questions, then what we will do is when we're done here, probably tomorrow morning, we will have this presentation. We recorded this presentation, so we will put this up on our YouTube page, and I will share out the link to everyone that was here so that you have that available to you as well. But if you need to refer back to it with any questions, you can. Our contact information is listed here on the screen as well, and we're happy to answer questions for you after tonight. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any additional questions. So I again thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to do this properly. As I said, it is an easy process, but it's also very easy to mess it up as well. So, as long as you follow the process, you follow everything that we've outlined here, you should be in pretty good shape moving forward. All right. Then with that, I say good night, everyone. Thank you for joining, and have a good rest of your evening.